Today, we're gonna use that pumpkin spice base that we made last week to make a pretty traditional pumpkin dish and a pretty non-traditional pumpkin dish, and what could be more traditional than pumpkin pie. This is self-serving skillet and I only want one. So I'm gonna use those mini pie crusts that I have in my freezer. If you wanna know how to make those, that video is available on my Patreon as the extra content that you get for the month of November. I'm gonna let those thaw on the counter and then dock them with a fork and pre-bake them in the oven for about 10 minutes at 350 degrees Fahrenheit or 180 Celsius. Just to remind you, this pumpkin spice base that we made is about equal parts pumpkin puree and cream cheese, with about 2 big spoons each of the pumpkin spice that we made last episode and sugar. But we're gonna need to do a little more to this to make it pie worthy, but not too much. All we're really gonna need to do is add about half a little spoon of all-purpose flour and a quarter little spoon of vanilla extract. And beyond that, you either want to add the smallest egg that you can find, or do my favorite trick, which is to save 1 or 2 big spoons of egg from your scrambled eggs in the morning before you cook it. And there we have our pumpkin pie crust, which we are going to pour our pumpkin pie mix after they've cooled down, of course. Then we're going to put this into the same 350 degree Fahrenheit oven for about 30 minutes or until it's set. After these are cooled and set, they're going into the refrigerator for about an hour, both to continue to set and because warm pumpkin pie won't hold whipped cream. During all that baking and cooling and setting and refrigerating time, we can get to work on our non-traditional bacon pumpkin soup. And we want to use this bacon grease to cook our onions in. So after I brown 1 pound of bacon in what starts out as a cold pan, I'm gonna drain the meat. In the leftover fat, cook down 1 onion and a couple handfuls of mushrooms. I like to quarter my mushrooms, both because they stay together a little bit better in the soup and because they do this delightful little thing when you chop them up on the cutting board. Here I'm just combining 1 part each of chicken stock and our savory pumpkin base this time. I'm just loosening it up now so I don't have to mix it up in the pot while it's hot. Let that go for about 10 minutes. Soup making 101. Spend some time on your onions. That way, you won't need to add any sugar. Onions, given enough time with heat, will break down their own sugars and you're gonna get a much more balanced dish than if you were to add something like white sugar. I can already tell that I'm gonna have some issues with this liquid separating, so before I add anything else, I'm gonna put in a couple spoonfuls of flour just to thicken this up and help it hold together. So when that's done, I'm gonna add about 4 cloves of garlic until it's smelling really, really good, and then bacon goes back in. Get your liquid in the pot, give it a stir, cover, simmer for half an hour. The secret ingredient in this soup is cheese. I'm using smoked cheddar. It's gonna round out all of those savory fall flavors and tie everything together. I really want to feel like I'm sitting around a bonfire drinking an Oktoberfest after a long day of hunting for wild maple syrups. So at this point, I'm gonna turn off my heat and add my room temperature cheese and stir until melted. It's really important that you don't use pre-shredded cheese in here. It has an anti-caking agent and it's not going to melt down and combine quite in a predictable way like this will here. I was asked after the last time I said that, which I think was the beer cheese video, if you could simply wash the anti-caking agent off of the cheese, and the answer is I don't know. But to that question, I would ask you, which is a perfectly legitimate question, I would ask you, are you spending more time and effort trying to hack your pre-shredded cheese than if you were to just shred your cheese? Let's let's taste this soup here. Savory, full, delicious. Just full. My mouth is just full of flavor. It's kind of sticking to my cheeks. I had thought that I would probably need a little bit of acid in this, in which case I was going to use a touch of apple cider vinegar, fall flavors, apples, pumpkins, things like that. I didn't need it. If you feel like you do, apple cider vinegar would work very nicely, some red wine vinegar. You might even be able to do like a malt vinegar would be pretty nice, I feel. But I am a big fan of this soup. It reads pumpkin. It does not read sweet. All right, let's get into our pumpkin pie here. And this isn't set up quite the way I'd like it. You know, it's actually really good. Probably another minute in the fridge, and that would have been just perfect, or the oven rather. And it tastes perfect. The consistency is beautiful. Let's get some of this crust in here. And the problem with doing it like this is that you're not really getting a nice slice of pie, but you get the flavors. You get the ideas. Nice flaky pie crust. I can't complain about that. That is absolutely beautiful. And I didn't add any extra sugar to that, which means that in the entire bulk of pumpkin spice base that we made, there are 2 tablespoons of sugar, which is a total of 24 grams. And I probably used 1/8 of what I had there. So this is very nice, very satisfying without a ton of sugar. You can obviously add as much sugar as you'd like. All right, if you're feeling educated and or entertained, please like the video if you are interested at all in how I'm using the rest of this pumpkin base. That's going to be the extra content that my Patreon supporters of the Duck Ave Level or Above get for this month, next month being the mini pie crusts. Get in the kitchen and make yourself something amazing. YouTube recommends this video next, and if you haven't seen me actually making this savory pumpkin pie base and the sweet one too, that one's going right here.